I'm trying to platinum the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, spanning 14 games and 810 trophies, and today I'll be completing the longest game in the series by far, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Not only is it the longest, it's also the most boring and tedious one so far, making the collectible grind from Rogue brief and enjoyable in comparison. Of the near 90 hours it took to pop the plat, 50 were for the main story and miscellaneous trophies, whereas completing all the regions took up the other 40, and almost all of it was dedicated to collectibles. My timing was also terrible because as soon as I got into the post-story grind, final season started, delaying the plat even more. So I'll stop delaying the rest of the video and start with the first part of this platinum, getting through the main story. The game starts with a young Viking called Eivor at a party celebrating the union of his clan and another when some other Vikings pull up to kill everyone there. Trying to have everyone spared, Eivor's dad sacrifices himself, but Kjotve, the guy attacking, betrays this deal and has everyone killed anyway. With her brother Sigurd, we somehow manage to escape, but we immediately get knocked off our horse onto a frozen lake, being mauled by a wolf and somehow surviving this shit as a little kid. Then some birds scare the wolf off and then the game starts glitching out, showing us killing the wolf by some miracle and ending the prologue to earn my first trophy. After a pretty big time skip, we end up captured by Kjotve, but after clutching up the 1v3, we manage to escape and reunite with Dag, one of our crew members. We then go free the rest of our crew before making it to our boat and escaping back to our village. There we go see the village seer Valka to talk about some schizo visions we've been having, only for her to induce another one with a potion. In it we see Odin, because of course we do, and Sigurd being eaten by a giant wolf. After that we go see Styrbjorn, our king, who is mad as fuck about all the trouble we're causing with Kjotve, and we also argue about whether or not the clan should bend the knee to a more powerful king. Before the argument gets more heated though, Sigurd finally returns from his travels with two assassins, Basim and his apprentice Hytham, and also gifts us a hidden blade. The next day we find Kjotve's spies near the village, which gives us the perfect excuse to bring the fight to him. We challenge him to a 1v1 but get our ass whooped, which causes Eivor to have a quick schizo pep talk with Odin, which amps us up to fight him properly. Mid-fight, Hytham tries to steal her kill, but he gets put in his place before we finish Kjotve off, which causes yet another schizo Odin vision, during which we get a mysterious medallion. After completely taking over his fort, we go to a meeting of all the kings where Styrbjorn swears loyalty to a new king, which pisses Sigurd off to the point where we leave for England to form our own kingdom. Once we sailed away, I unlocked another trophy. After sailing for a while, we make it to the spot where we plan to set up camp, and after clearing all the bandits, we start building our new home. We're then sent to raid a nearby monastery for materials, which also unlocked another trophy. Once we return to the village, Sigurd tells us that he's leaving for Leicestershire and will be waiting for us there. He also gives us one of the main goals for the game, that being forming alliances around England. So we go to talk to his wife Randvi, who shows us a map of England and all the available regions that we can ally with, each one having its own story arc with very few giving trophies. And for the sake of keeping this video shorter, I'll only focus on the ones that give trophies and those that advance the main Sigurd storyline. That being said, the quote-unquote first territory I pledged to is Granted Bridgeshire. Before getting to that though, I built some barracks in the village, which also allowed me to create some customized Vikings for my crew, which also gives me a trophy. I also built a base for the assassins, where Hytham tells us that the Order of the Ancients is present in England and asks us to go to London to deal with those present in the city. The Granted Bridgeshire arc starts with us looking for its leader Soma, who's been attacked by a bunch of Saxons. So we go look for her in a nearby swamp, where we find her tending to her remaining men. She tells us that the Order of the Ancients is trying to remove her from power, so to make her an ally we have to get rid of them. To start, she asks us to find her 3 advisors, which we do pretty easily. We then start planning retaking her city, and all we had to do was break through the defenses and clear the area of enemies to get it back. After that, she asks us to find a traitor among her advisors, since it's the only way that she would have lost so quickly. But instead of paying attention during the next couple of missions to find the traitor properly, I just searched it up because by this point I was already getting kind of tired of this game. After picking the right advisor, she kills him. To wrap up the arc, we went to kill the main Templar in the area who was hiding in a church, which officially makes Soma our ally and unlocks a trophy. Back at the village, some Danes attack us and they say that they came from another region, East Anglia, so that's where we will be going next. Before starting that though, I built a few more buildings with materials I'd been collecting to get the village to level 3 for yet another trophy. The East Anglia arc has us trying to get this guy Oswald to be taken seriously as a king by the rest of the powerhouses in the region, as well as his wife's family, since he's considered too soft to be king. The first thing we did was train him to fight, and even though he's low-key some ass at fighting, he keeps getting back up, which is really respectable. Now that he's been trained a little bit, we go deal with the Ruid, the Dane that attacked our village, by destroying a bunch of his supplies. After that, we go confront him directly, but Oswald decides to 1v1 him instead and gets his ass whooped. But instead of just losing, he takes Ruid down with him as they fall off a cliff. To finish off his control over the area, we storm his castle where we find out that they both survived the fall. So we fight and beat Rued, and Oswald decides to let him live. After he gets fully married, we officially become allies, but Rued comes back to fight him and gets his ass whooped instead. After their fight, the arc ends for a trophy. Before continuing the story, I do a bit of exploring and side content, during which I unlock a few trophies. The first was for completing my first standing stone puzzle, which just required lining up some symbols together. The next one was for completing 10 world events, which are just a bunch of different side activities around the map. Completing an animus anomaly, which is also a type of world event, gave me another one. And the last one was for killing a daughter of Lyrien, which are 3 hard bosses in East Anglia needed for some more trophies later. Back to the story, I continued Sigurd's quest line with the Oxenfordshire arc, which comes after the Leicestershire arc, which I skipped for this video since it has no related trophy and has little bearing on the overall plot. It turns out that Basim and Sigurd got into some trouble in Oxenfordshire despite allying with Gaedrich, the local thane, who's been imprisoned by his wife. So we go and save him, where we learn that they had planned a meeting with some woman named Fulke before we even got there, who supposedly knows some prophecies about Sigurd. It turns out that she's also been captured, so we go save her from a nearby monastery. She apparently has a stone that is supposed to prove that Sigurd is a descendant of gods or something crazy like that, so we go to get it back, but it's already been taken by Gaedrich's wife. So with his army, we go attack his wife's castle and fight her to get back the stone. Turns out it's some more Isu bullshit, so I instantly lost any interest I had in the story because the Isu storylines are by far the least interesting parts of the Assassin's Creed games, not counting the modern day. Anyway, it also turns out that Eivor has been seeing that stone in his Odin visions, so I guess everyone is just related to the Isu now. Even though we got what we needed, King Alfred, the big boss of the region, shows up, and instead of fighting, Fulke forces us to trade Sigurd for some random soldier as an act of peace, since she's been working for Alfred all along. She's also the one who gets custody of him, so we'll have to deal with her later, especially since she's also part of the Order of the Ancients. The next arc I went for was the London arc, but because this video is going to be long enough as is, I'll recap it quickly. All I had to do was kill 3 Templars in the city who killed the mayor, and by doing so we also appointed a new one who became our ally. The only reason I'm even mentioning this arc is because I got a trophy at the end. While completing it, I also got another one for equipping 8 abilities at the same time. Back to the Sigurd storyline, I start the Kent arc, which has us looking for Sigurd to free him. To get information on Fulke and Sigurd's location, we first have to do some favors for an abbot who can get us this information. He wants us to help him gain the future king's favor by staging a kidnap and rescue, with himself as the rescuer, but turns out that we kidnapped a decoy. But we eventually managed to find, fight, and kidnap the real king, who gets saved by the abbot. But someone poisoned him, so the plan is a bust. He's still willing to give us the information though, so we go meet him at his chapel, but Fulke was already there waiting for us since he had also invited her. She talks some shit and leaves, but lets slip her current location. So we follow that lead to a nearby cathedral where Sigurd was being held, but all we find there for now is his severed arm. Basim also finds out that Fulke is now in Sussex, which ends the Kent arc for a trophy. Before dealing with that though, I went to do all the available quest lines in all the other regions to have as many allies as possible for the upcoming arcs, but I will talk about none of them since none of them give trophies and are largely uninteresting. I did get 2 trophies for other things in the process though. One was for destroying 10 curse symbols, which are a sort of open world objective, and the other was for using my first mastery point, which increases my melee, stealth, or range damage and other stats by a bit after hitting 200 power. While waiting for our allies to pull up in Sussex, we make contact with Guthrum, the area's Jarl, to start preparing for an attack on Fulke. After taking care of the nearby scouts, we set up camp near Fulke's castle, but end up being attacked anyway and take some heavy losses. Eventually though, all our allies show up and we can now plan a proper attack. And by proper attack, I mean breaking down the front gate and running through the fort to get Sigurd and kill Fulke. After another schizovision, the arc ends for a trophy. Before going for the next arc in Winchester, I completed all remaining region quests to get them out of the way, and once again, they gave no trophies. In Winchester, we once again had to get rid of 3 Templars in the city, but this time, King Alfred himself is surprisingly the one to ask us for help. Once we kill all 3, Alfred offers us the opportunity to live in Winchester as a Christian, but we refuse and leave to end the arc for another trophy. Now all that's left in the Sigurd questline is to return to Norway to find an Isu vault, because it wouldn't be an Assassin's Creed game without one. Inside, we plug ourselves into the Matrix to experience VR chat Valhalla, which is controlled by Isu Odin of course, escape the Matrix, trap Basim in it, and are given the position of Jarl from Sigurd to end the story arc for a trophy. After that, I went to collect my main weapon for the rest of the game and fully fully leveled it up for a trophy. And after clearing up some more of the map, I also hit 280 power for another one. Before going for the true final arc, I also did the Asgard and Jotunheim quests that I can access with Valka's potions. These were just me playing as Odin instead, and is supposed to lead into the events of Ragnarok, with the final boss being Fenrir, the big ass wolf from the vision at the start of the game. I personally hate when they add this mythological stuff into AC games, so I didn't really like the arcs, not to mention that they added even more collectibles for later, but at least they did give a trophy at the end. The final arc was essentially one massive fight against Alfred's army, which, although we won, cost us a lot of allies, but at least I get a trophy for finishing the first phase of this trophy list. Also, during one of the missions, I got a trophy for getting 10 assassinations while remaining undetected, which was a lot harder than in previous games because of this game's shit stealth. Now that the main story is complete, I enter part 2 of the Valhalla plat, completing all the territories. Or in other words, some of the worst 40 hours of gaming I've ever experienced. There are a total of 784 items and activities across the 21 territories in the game, and I have to collect and complete all of them. This is by far one of, if not the longest grinds I've ever done for just one trophy, and it's not even the last one to get. At least while doing that, I unlocked a couple of more trophies. The first was for completing 3 cairn stacking challenges, which were pretty frustrating to do at times. Next one was for unlocking Thor's helmet, which I could get after beating the other 2 daughters of Larion. Then I got another for swimming 3 kilometers on horse, but as has happened each video so far that I've made, I wasn't recording while it popped, so here's a fairly accurate recreation. Completing all the Animus anomalies also unlocked a cutscene showing that the Norse gods were just Isu, and Eivor, Basim and Sigurd were actually descendants of gods, which unlocks a trophy. After that, I got another one for collecting all Roman artifacts and handing them into the vendor at the village. I also got one for completing all rhyming challenges. Unlocking the area of Vinland also gave me one. And finally, after killing all the alpha animals in the game, I got one more trophy. After all that and way more is done, I finally unlocked this fuck ass trophy. That doesn't mean that I'm done running around the map though, since I still have to beat every Orlok champion, which is a dice minigame that Ubisoft added for even more bloated content. After beating all 19 players, I got the trophy. Now that all the bloat on the map has been completed, I move on to the next part of the Platinum, which was pretty short, killing all the members of the Order of the Ancients. It didn't take too long to do since I had dealt with most of them by this point, and it also turns out that their leader was actually King Alfred, who's been helping us take them down from the start. After talking with him and letting him live, I got the trophy. While working on it, I also got another one for getting an assassination from horseback. With the order dealt with, I move on to the final part of the plat, clearing up the remaining trophies. The first of these that I got was for getting Mjolnir, which I could only do with the full Thor set. Not long after that, I also got Excalibur by way of a set of collectibles. Then I got another one for releasing a firefly in the village. Placing decorations on all available spots in the village also got me one. Lighting a bunch of braziers in the north of the map also unlocked another one. Maxing out my village also gave me a trophy, and this was a bit more tedious since I was missing a good amount of materials despite everything I've done by this point. I missed the next trophy, which was for following 5 treasure maps. After that, I went to get another for sliding down 150 meters of snow, but because Ubisoft can't make a good game anymore, it didn't pop for the first few attempts, even though I did the exact same thing as on the successful one. At least running through 30 breakable objects was easy and quick to do. Similarly, I had to run through 5 boats in 2 minutes, but this was a bit more frustrating because sometimes the boats wouldn't break after being rammed, causing a couple of restarts, but it was still pretty quick to get. After that, I got thrown by a fat man for a trophy, then hiding amongst some monks to pass some guards popped another one. The second to last trophy was also pretty annoying to get since I had to get 3 kills while severely underleveled and on fire, but it wasn't as bad thanks to a guide I found online. And finally, to wrap up the trophy list, I did a lot of fishing, and after catching every type of fish, I popped the final trophy to unlock the Assassin's Creed Valhalla Platinum. So, closing thoughts, this game was some dog shit, filled with filler, uninteresting content, bloating the game to the point that half of the playtime was running around the map getting collectibles. The story and pacing were also awful, especially since most arcs were hella boring, delaying the somewhat interesting main plot, and had no real sense of direction or interconnectivity until maybe the final battle. Not to mention all the tedious and grindy trophies. I wouldn't recommend this game to anyone and is one of maybe 4 platinums I regret going for. But with all that negativity aside, I'm almost done with the franchise with only 2 plats left as of now, so make sure to let me know what other games you'd like to see me plat after Assassin's Creed. Thank you for watching till the end, subscribe if you want to see me get more platinums, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.